All right, we're back. We are COMP397, that's web game programming in the fall 2018 semester at Centennial. We're week 4, part 1 of our broadcast. I'm going to be talking about finite state machine design pattern today. When we use it with games, how do we do that? We're going to create the scene class today, which is something new. Also, I just want to do a checkpoint with you guys just to talk about what's due again. If we're sitting at week number 4, notice it says exercise 2 is the finite state machine pattern, which I'm going to get you guys to hand in today, right? So that's worth 5% of your final grade, right? What I'm looking to do more than anything else when I say finite state machine pattern is that it's going to allow us to have multiple scenes. So anything we use today, I'm going to allow you to use to hand in. It's more like I'm giving you 5% to do the exercise, like 5% to actually participate in class more than anything else. You're not going to be able to, you're not going to worry about doing too many things. The reason I made it so high is because there's a lot of people who miss this class by chance. And when it comes down to doing their assignment and tests coming week 7, they can't do the transition. They can't make multiple scenes. And one of the things that I've asked you to do this semester with your projects is have at least 3 levels, a start scene and an end scene. And in order for you to do that, you need to be able to transition from one scene to another scene. So we're going to have to develop that today. The other thing is later on today, during the break, I'm going to be posting assignment 1. Now, it was supposed to be posted last week, but I wanted to give you an extra week to kind of do some other stuff. Typically, what I do is I give you about 2 weeks to do assignment number 1, which would take us into week 7. And I also have assignment number 2, which I'll probably give you around week 7, and it'll be probably due around week 8 or 9, all right? These assignments, guys, are going to be individual assignments, all right? So they're not going to be assignments that you do with other people. And I'll tell you why. You need to understand how to do CreateJS on your own in this course, as well as be able to partner and produce a project. So everyone's a programmer in this course, and that's why I'm getting it done the way I'm doing it. All right, so we're talking about FSM, finite state machine pattern. So there's 2 things I'm going to post today. One is assignment 1. The other one is exercise 2. Exercise 2 we do by the end of today. And assignment 1 will be due next week, is what it says, right? Let's see if we can make it next week. If you guys feel it's too crazy, I'll make it so it's week 6 or something like that, or week 7. Because also next week, if you notice, there's also this thing called first playable that's due. First playable means you're doing your prototype. You're doing your proof of concept for your project, right? I don't want to overload you with assignments, but what I want you guys to do is you have your pitch. And now what I want you to do is using your pitch as a jump-off point, I want you to create something that moves on the screen, like actually can do something based on your pitch, right? So you're going to produce your first project part that actually does something other than just, you know, documentation and planning, all right? Again, that is due next week, week 5 at midnight, and I want to post the stuff for that by the end of lecture today. Okay, so that's cool. That's what we're doing. Let's start. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch back down. I kind of went to a very high level of magnification for last class. I'm going to go back from a display settings perspective. I'm going to go back to about 125%, which is going to give us more breathing room, but still makes everything visible. I'm going to bring up last week's project. And remember, we were using COMP397 lesson 3 last week. And today, I'm just going to make a copy of this. So here's COMP397 lesson 3 on my crazy desktop. And I'm going to make a duplicate of this. I'm going to copy and paste so we can have the original project. There it is. And we'll call this lesson 4. Here's lesson 4. Yay. And I'm not going to get rid of the Git folder that's inside. The Git folder that's inside, it basically has all my commits. I'm going to keep my commits, but I'm going to get rid of my remote. All right? So how do I do that? First, I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code. And what I want to do is I can open up a folder using Visual Studio Code as well on my crazy desktop, right? So I'm looking at this folder here, and it'll bring up my new folder. This is lesson 4 for today, right? One thing I don't want, I'm going to bring up my control backtick, bring up my PowerShell. One thing I don't want is my remote. Right now, if I go get remote, you can see that I have something called origin. I want to get rid of it because origin points to lesson 3. I want a new one, a new remote connection that points to lesson 4. So let's do that. So I'll say get remote, remove origin. And if I go get remote now, there's no more origin. But we need to make an origin. So up on GitHub, I'm going to go to GitHub now. I'm going to go into Centennial and make a new repository. There's a new repository, which I'm going to call COMP397 in the fall 2018 semester. And it's going to be lesson 4. Now I have both the remote and this other statement. I'm just going to grab these two things, copy them, go back to here and paste and enter. Now, sometimes what it does is it gives me a bit of a bump, an error. It says, hey, something's wrong there. You know, you're looking like you're pushing something that shouldn't exist. And that's okay, we'll fix that. So if you notice now I have my new lesson, lesson 4, where we're starting today. So please start from there if you're watching, okay? I also have lesson 3, I'm leaving alone, so you can see the changes I made. If you ever want to compare one lesson to the other, that's why I'm leaving them there. And it's an easier way to do that. Okay, a couple more things. Package.json says lesson 3. If I go to package.json, it says lesson 3. It's just for completeness. I'm going to put lesson 4. It's not totally required. Also, fall 2018, lesson 1. I didn't change that last time. It's going to be lesson 4. But I'm going to change this part to the description to say FSM, Finite State Machine intro. Okay, because that's really what it's all about. Finite State Machine. And the finite state machine, I'm also going to change this. The finite state machine is a fancy word for saying something like, I want to change scenarios, if you will, or I want to switch my screen, right? I want to move from one situation to another situation, one, you know, state, if you will, to another state. And the finite state machine pattern is not just only for scene switching, but also things like behavior. If I want to choose artificial intelligent behavior, very simple artificial intelligence, AI behavior, things like I want to search for my enemy. I'm in patrol mode, patrol state. I am running away from you, right? That's another running away state. I am fighting you. That's the fighting state. I am dying. That's the dying state, right? And then you can have multiple states of behavior for your enemy AI units if you really want to. We're not going to go there today. All we're going to really do is switch. We're going to use the finite state machine pattern to switch between scene 1 and scene 2 and scene 3. And these scenes are going to be like the start scene, the play scene, and the end scene. At the same time, we're also going to make our game, again, keep making my game, which is going to be my little mail pilot game that I'm showing you this whole time. Okay, so yes, I've got my package.json. I've got this off. One thing I need to do is press Control-Shift-B, which starts off my watch. All right, I want to do that always when I start off. So I'm always watching because I'm transpiling from TypeScript to JavaScript. I'm also going to pull off my PowerShell and then type light-server so I can see the changes that are going to come up in my browser immediately. Notice last week what we did, we had this little plane that moved from one side of the screen to the other, and this is where we stopped. So what I want to do is complete a very simple scene. I want a couple of things to happen. One of them is I want a background ocean to scroll in the background. That's one thing I'd like to happen, right? I also want my island and my clouds to fly around the screen too, before I get to my state machine pattern, right? We have some of these things already. If I go back to my code for a second, recall what we did. We came up with our core game, which is inside my core folder. In my core game, what I did last week was preload my assets because we had a problem the previous week with showing the buttons and so on, right? So we preloaded all these assets, including sounds, which we haven't used yet. we came up with a function called init that we preload. We load this one first. We wait for loading of all the assets to be complete, and then we call my start function. So we've done that all last week. We also, in the objects folder, so if I go scripts, objects, I have some objects. I have my button object, my label object that we did a couple weeks ago, and then we have my player object. And there's also something called a game object, which we made, which is kind of a superclass, and we made it abstract. Recall that abstract classes cannot be made into, cannot create concrete objects. So abstract is like almost like my blueprint of blueprints, right? My class would be a blueprint, and I cannot make objects from my abstract class, but I can make other classes from my abstract class. And I've created this game object superclass because it's going to share a lot of things that all my other game objects are going to have. Okay. I also made my button class extend right now my create.js button, my bitmap, but it has a lot of the same stuff that my my game object superclass has. This is my game object superclass. In fact, there's a lot of duplication here. I could make my button inherit from my game object, but for now, in order for us to move forward, before we get into my scene switching stuff, let's leave it alone. Again, there's a couple of thoughts around this one, and I want to ask you guys what you think. Should I make the best code possible right from the beginning, the most accurate code, most refactored code as I write? Is that something I should do?
Works first.
Okay, works first. Does that mean I have to be like perfect code or as perfect as I can make it right away? So people are shaking their heads. Why do you think that? I would agree with you, by the way. Why do you think that I wouldn't do it that way? What if I try to make the best code I possibly can for my button class? I'm still not done my button class, and I wouldn't be maybe moving on to what I'm doing right now, because I can really work hard, even now, to make things better, improve what I have more and more. And I find that when you keep improving things as you go, like really improve things, and you stop, it stops your progression, right? I recommend that you have a refactor phase in your development. So one phase of your project should be kind of making things go. I want to make my project move. I want to make my characters play. Maybe my code is a little bit, please forgive me when I say this, cancerous, right? A little bit. It's not cool, right? It has a bit of sickness to it when you look at it. In fact, it makes you sick, right? When you look at your code, you're like, oh my God, this is really brute force, right? But it works. If it's not completely terrible, and I think our code's not completely terrible, there's still some problems with it. There's a lot of duplication, but it works. Let's move on, and when we come back, we'll refactor. I recommend this as opposed to refactor as I go, which is like, if I compare it to writing a book, it's like I keep writing chapter 1 over and over again. Hello, George R. Martin, right? And Game of Thrones, and never finish, right? Now, there is another school of thought that says, whoa, whoa, whoa. If I'm not given a deadline, then why not make it as perfect as possible? Because then I'm going to get a superior product. And my friends, what I can say is in game dev, what I found out is it's better to get a product that works and it's clunky and it's hacky as opposed to no product. Because if you have no product, you can't show anybody anything, right? Whereas if it's hacky, you can always iterate using agile methodology to make it better. I can always improve on something that I have, and it's much easier to improve on something as opposed to have nothing to show. That would be very bad. All right, so cool. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to leave the button class the way it is, even though you might be cringing right now. And I'm going to move to the player class. Notice that it uses the game object superclass, the abstract superclass, to create my player. And I've done some boundary checking here. That's what I've done. And you know what? This might be something that I want to put inside of a method, right? So this boundary checking stuff is not something that I really care for other users to see, right? And again, if I was going to improve my player class, which I'm not, because it works, right? I would put this stuff, refactor it into its own method. Not going to do it right now. I'm going to move on. Okay, let's do that. I also last week recall that I created another game class, game.ts, But this game.ts was inside something called managers. And my managers folder is going to be used to house things that I use from other classes. All right. For example, I have my game manager, and my game manager has a bunch of global variables right now, which are I'm using kind of like singletons, kind of. I've created references to them in one class, and then I'm instantiating them. And then what I'm doing is I'm accessing the same objects, but in other classes, as opposed to passing a reference to those classes from my game object class, my main game class, to my other classes. And that's just crazy. I'm going to pass a lot of different properties. I might have 20 different singletons or globals that I'm passing around. And that's really inefficient in my opinion. However, globals are less safe than not having globals and passing things around. So if you're a Java developer, you're going to look at this and go, oh, no, Tom, don't do it. It's bad because it's going outside the, object-oriented principles of hiding information. Yes, it is, but we're making games, and it's a slightly different way of doing things here as opposed to what we would normally do if you're programming Java or C# for the bank. Okay, we're not making a bank application. We're making a game, right? Okay, so that's just review of what we did last week. I want to make a new object. I want to call this new object my ocean. Here's my ocean. And it's going to be ocean.ts. Just to be preemptive, I know that I'm going to have to link my ocean and any new object I make into my index.html file. So I'm going to do that first. I'm going to go here in my index.html file, and I'm going to say, okay, well, does ocean need to know about player? No. Does player need to know about ocean? No. Does ocean need to know about game object? Maybe. So maybe I'd put it underneath the player or on top of the player, but definitely below game object. Probably not, but I'm going to put it something like this. I'm going to say script source. And now you're like, wait a minute. Do you mean, Tom, that order matters? Absolutely. In JavaScript, when I create classes, they are not hoisted like other things. So objects, and I'm going to call this ocean.js, right? So let me repeat that. Normally, variables in JavaScript that are starting with the var keyword are hoisted, which means if I declare a variable in JavaScript at the bottom, it's going to be moved by the interpreter to the top, which can cause issues. So that's why I've been using the let keyword, which stops hoisting from happening. However, classes are not hoisted. If I declare a class down here in the bottom of my code, and I try and use it at the top over here, it's not going to work. Not in JavaScript, all right? I have to declare it first, making some kind of declaration or some kind of interface for it, and then I can use it. And that's somewhat disturbing for people. They don't understand how that works. Whereas in a namespace, normally, as long as I include my class reference, I'm good. However, so far, I've been using my index.html as my manifest that links all my classes together. So it's really, really important that I add them in some kind of order that makes sense. Okay, please keep that in mind. Any comments or concerns around that?
Misspelling on scripts there.
You're right. Thank you. Misspelling. Okay, going back to this. So now here's my class, Ocean. I connected it already, which is good. That's one less thing for me to do. I'm going to say that it is inside module objects. And I'm going to do the export keyword because it allows me to expose my Ocean outside of module objects. Otherwise, if I don't do that, it'll be locked inside of module objects. And I'm going to call it class Ocean, more curly braces. I'm going to do private instance variables, probably, maybe some public properties. So far, I haven't many. Constructor is where this is going to go. Maybe some private methods and maybe some public methods. So that's kind of I'm just using a type of pseudocode to describe what's happening here, okay? Or at least some outlining. I'm using comments to outline what I'm going to do. Okay, so now, Ocean. Question, is it similar to game object? So if I look at game object, it gives me width and height, and half width and half height. And what the heck am I doing here anyway? Well, what I want to do, right, if I look at my code, and if I go to my desktop, where I have my code, this is where my stuff is. It's in fall 2018, lesson 4. Inside there, I have an assets folder. And inside my assets folder, I have an images folder. And I have this thing called Ocean. Yay! I'm going to double click it. And what it's going to do, it's going to ask me to open it in some program. I'm going to open it up in Fireworks. Who cares? It could be any graphic manipulation program of your choice. But what Ocean does for me, okay, is what I wanted to do is I want to have one part of Ocean being shown at the same time. So I'm going to make this thing 640 by 480. Just a moment. And I'm also going to make some borders so you can see it. We'll make it yellow borders. And we'll give it, yellow borders. And we'll make it so that it's like 4. Okay, maybe 6. And if I zoom in, you can see that this area here will represent my viewport. I'm just going to lock down my ocean for a second, and I'm going to move my rectangle, which is my viewport, around. So imagine if my viewport, which is this one, so this is, let's say, my viewport, and let's just call this my ocean for now. I'll unlock it. I'm just using layers here so you can see what I'm talking about. So in my ocean, what I wanted to do is I wanted to start like this. It's going to start off screen way over here, and then it's going to scroll down like this until it hits the top of my screen to here, and then it's going to reset. Whoop. And it's going to do that over and over again, resetting and moving down. So it looks like it is scrolling, a scrolling ocean background. However, is it really scrolling? No. All it's doing is moving down. I'm going to move my ocean down and then move it back up. Curious, going back to my code, do I need to know width and height and half width and half height? The answer is not really. I don't really need to know that because my ocean is going to be centered around the top left corner of the object. It's not going to be centered like before. All I care about is this top left corner here, which is 0, 0 for my local coordinate space, right? So I don't need this part, and I don't need all of this, and I don't need initialize function, which does this, because I don't care about the bounds. Do I need reset? Yes. Do I need start? Yes. Do I need update? Yes. Do I need destroy? Yes. But that's all I need, but I don't need all of this. Also, my ocean, is it a bitmap? Yes, it is a bitmap. However, I don't need to inherit from game object in this case. However, it is a game object. Okay, just putting it out there. Could I inherit from game object? Absolutely. Okay, so let's do that. Let's go back to ocean. And if I inherit from game object, now in the past, in other iterations of this code, I have not done this, and you will see why, right? Extends objects.gameObject. Yay, cool. I've extended it. Fantastic. Now what I can do is go back to my game object, and I can grab the stuff that makes sense. I don't have to grab any of this stuff or any of this stuff, because by default, all of this stuff is done. However, these public methods, and one thing you can't do, if I say I want to call this method abstract, let's say public abstract reset, and then it says, if I do that, it says method reset cannot have an implementation because it is marked abstract, right? I can do that with my methods. So I can say, well, this method is marked abstract. I can put in a semicolon. So I'm modifying my superclass for a second, which might screw me up, but hey, I'm just that kind of guy. Okay, if I get screwed up, because I can fix it, and it's fun. Maybe it's not so fun, but I want to do this. And then if I did that for everything, if I kind of said that each of these things is abstract, abstract means they must be overridden, right? Typically in other languages. I must override these things, okay? And if I don't override them, then I'm going to have a problem with my inheriting classes. For example, player. Here's my player class, and it says, well, player, it says non-abstract class player does not implement inherited abstract member destroy or reset Notice it says that because I need to inherit those pieces, right? Because, hey, an abstract class needs all those pieces. So for now, I'm just going to leave the reset, public reset, which returns void, as blank, my player, as well as public destroy, which also is going to return void in my player class to fix that problem. So I'm really making it abstract. Some methods, though, in my abstract superclass game object are not abstract. For example, my initialize method, right? Or my constructor. I can't make my constructor abstract anyway. But in my ocean now, it says, hey, you got a problem, right? I need all of these things here to fix my problem. Now, wouldn't it be nice if I just can click on here and then, you know, install all the stuff that's not installed? And then, by the way, in Visual Studio and other IDEs, you can do that. You can right-click on your problem and then install that. Well, look, there's a little light bulb here, right? If I click on the light bulb, it says, implement inherited abstract class. Implement. Okay? If I did that, it gives me all this. So it actually does all the method writing for me, right? It doesn't belong there, though. These things absolutely do not belong where I put them, right? They don't belong here. They belong in my public methods section. So I'm going to take these things out, cut them, and go into my public methods down here and paste them. I also have this throw error because these methods have not yet been implemented, okay? Just in case I want to use it. Okay, this is cool. I'm starting off my class pretty good. I've got these reset, start, update, and destroy methods. I need a constructor. So here's my constructor. And my constructor, because I'm inheriting from GameObject, must have a superclass, which I'm going to pass in an image string. So the image string is going to be ocean. How do I know this? Because if I go to my game class inside my core folder, up on the top here, I called ocean my friendly name for assets images ocean.gif. Right? That's what this is. So I'm going back to ocean. So this is good. Private methods so far, none. Start method, I want to call from my constructor. So that has to be done by myself. I have to do this because my default abstract superclass does not do this. Okay? So I definitely want to call my start method. Here's my start method. I have my reset, my update, and my destroy. Let's start at the beginning. I know I have some extra stuff for this class that I don't quite yet need, but I'm just going to get rid of some of this stuff for now. I could leave it in place. It's not going to hurt me because just in case someone who uses my class tries to call something that hasn't been implemented, they should get some kind of thing back. That's the idea behind it that tells you, hey, none of these have been implemented. All right, well, what do I want my ocean to do? Well, I want it, just like I did, to start off screen. And just for you guys to know, the ocean is 3 panels high, right? So my ocean is 1440 height. So what width is 640 by 1440? And if I subtract 1 height, so calculator, if I subtract 1440, if I subtract 640, right? That's, sorry, 480, which is the height. I get 960. So that means 960 pixels of my ocean, right, are off screen when I first start. That is my reset position, negative 960 on the y-axis. So if I go back to my ocean, my reset position, my y, this dot y, is equal to negative 960. Cool. And in my start method, I'm going to call my reset function. So this dot reset. Good. So now when I start, my ocean starts off screen. Next, I need to define a speed that my ocean will kind of move down, right? Because my ocean is going to move down a certain speed. It's going to flow or scroll. And I can do that as a private method, a private member. So I can say that private, and I'm going to call this something like vertical speed, right? So vertical speed. And I'm going to say that it is of type number, okay? And inside my, I don't declare it here. It's bad form to declare a value up here in your private instance members. You're probably better to do it down here in your start method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my speed, so this dot vertical speed. I can declare it as 5, which is 5 pixels, right, per frame. That's what I want it to move. I want it to move down the length of my screen, 5 pixels per frame. Excelente. Cool. I've got my vertical speed. And now I want to change my y coordinate, right, so that every frame I move down that much. Okay, well, let's do that. In my update function, I can say that this dot y is equal to, or plus equals to, sorry, vertical speed, right? Fantastic. That'll move the ocean down 5 pixels per frame. I could do that. But there's going to be a problem. I'm going to keep moving this ocean down the screen until it's going to go to here, and it's going to keep going forever. I need to check to see if it comes here, which is at the top of my screen, and then I can reset. It's another boundary check I'm going to need to do. So I really want to do something like this. This dot underscore check bounds. Why is it underscore? Because it's going to be a private function that I haven't written yet. Okay? Again, what I want to do is in my private area, I want to go to private, and again, it's going to be called underscore check bounds. There it is, which returns void. And what is it going to do? It's going to say that, well, it's going to do my check. It's going to say that if this dot y is greater than or equal to 0, so the y at the top is greater than or equal to 0, I want it to reset my ocean back to the beginning. And if you notice my reset, it puts my y back at negative 960. So it'll reset it back to the beginning. And this is done in a method because it's the right thing to do. Here's another question. Should I make it like this? Right now, my vertical speed only does one thing. But you know what? Maybe in the future, I want some other weird thing to happen. I could move my vertical speed to something like move. I could have a move function, which I recommend, actually. So good form would say that private, right, underscore move, right, which returns void, does what I want it to do. It does all this part. It does the vertical speed stuff, right? So it adds vertical speed to y. So that should be put up there. Again, I'm not trying to make it perfect. I'm just trying to make it work, but within some reason. And this dot underscore move. So that is going to move my ocean down. And now you can read my update. On update, I'm going to move and then check bounds. It's clearer, right? It's more clear this way than if I wrote it the other way. This tells you what's happening in my update. Every frame, I'm going to move my ocean, right? In fact, if I really want to be crazy, I could call this function move down, because that's what it's going to do. It's going to move down. However, I'm going to leave it as move because I may use something like this in another game object. All right, this is great, but I have to test it. I haven't tested my ocean. It's complete, but let's test it, my ocean inside of my core game.ts file.
Sorry, sir. What time is the class until?
7:30.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so if you look at my my regular scene, I've got my my player. I'm going to add in my ocean. This is inside of core game.ts. So I'm going to say let ocean be of type objects dot ocean, and we're going to start getting messy. In my main method, I'm going to add my ocean. Now, curious, where should I add my ocean? Should I add my ocean before the player or after the player? And does it even make a difference? What do you think? Why before?
How do the layers work?
Oh, that's the question I want you to ask. How does layering work? Well, the way layering works by default in Create.js is whatever you add to the display list on the stage has to be added in layer order, which means the lowest layer has to be added first, which means I want the plane to be on top of the ocean, so therefore the ocean has to be before the plane. So I'm going to say something like ocean is equal to new objects dot ocean. Oh, what the heck? is equal to new objects.ocean. I'll be okay. And then I want to add the ocean to the stage, right? That's what this does. So this right here adds ocean to the stage. This right here adds player to the stage. Okay, so that's what these two things do. Ocean and then player. All right, let's test it and see if it's good. If I go back to my window, I can see now that I have an ocean, but it ain't moving. Why is that? The update function was never called on the ocean class. Where should I put that? Inside of my game updates. Wow, this is going to get crowded pretty soon. So I'm going to say, well, it doesn't matter which opens updates first, but let's just put ocean here for now. For completeness, you're probably going to want to put ocean update before plane, but that's just a matter of paranoia. Because it really doesn't have to be there. Right, there we go. All right, so ocean updates, then plane updates, then stage updates. Okay, let's go back and see what happens. Does it move? Yes. Does it look good? It's okay. There's some problems. Yes, there are some problems. What are the problems? Can you see the problem? Yes, right there. Take a look again. Oh, right there. One more time. Yes, there it is.
When they reset, the flow is not fluent enough.
It's not 100%. It doesn't reset 100%. So what could I do to make this better? Any ideas? First of all, I could pick a different tile. This is one big ocean tile. Maybe some artists will design this thing a little better, where the bottom of the tile and the top of the tile are very similar. That's one thing we could do. What's another thing we can do here in my ocean? Any thoughts? How about my friend Pedro? What do you think, Pedro? You think I could do something better with the ocean so that I don't see the transition from one part to the other?
2 of them.
2 of them. Okay. I could do 2 of them. So if I did ocean 1 and then ocean 2, I can have 2 oceans, right? So ocean 1 would start like this. And then it would come down to this point, right? And instead of resetting here, right, I could have a second ocean. I could have a second ocean that is right behind it, like this. Now, here's the challenge with this approach. Do you see a problem with one ocean and the other? Let me just get rid of I'm just going to hide the viewport. Do you see a problem with one ocean and the other ocean?
There's a seam.
There's a bit of a seam. The reason why there's a bit of a seam is because this ocean doesn't start and end 100% the same. In fact, if I was drawing this properly in Photoshop, what I would do is, I mean, it's not bad. It's pretty close. If you see, there's like this, looks like this little vein of the ocean goes this way. It looks like there's these little spidery veins that goes from one part of the ocean to the other. And it provides that little water-like effect. But even when I was to do this, there is still some seaming that's going to happen where you're going to see like, it's going to be a bit of offset, if you will. Now, again, notice that x is 1. If I put this x as 0, and then I put this x as 0, I might be more aligned. And then, but you're going to get a preview of what it's going to look like right here in my editing tool. So, yes, I would agree with you, Pedro. Normally, I'd want to put 2 oceans on top of each other so there's no seam, right? And then what I can do is, as one ocean flows down, the only time I'm going to reset, instead of resetting the ocean the way it is right now, I'm going to wait until the top of the ocean is at the bottom of my screen instead of the top of my screen. And then I'm going to reset that ocean on top of this ocean. All right. So that way there'll be a continuous amount of ocean and you'll never see that swap happening. If it was a perfect tile, that is an amazing scenario, right? 2 oceans or 2 skies or 2 whatever, right? However, we don't have a great tile anyway. So in this case, it's probably good enough. Okay, I'm just putting it out there. Sometimes we have to make these decisions. Like, it's not so bad that you can tell. It's just a little bit, you can see when it transitions right there, but it's like, it's not totally terrible, right? Still bad, but it's not that bad. Okay, so this is my island, sorry, my ocean and my plane. Let's add my other two objects. So now we're going to go back to this, but before we add things, we have these 14 changes. Great time to do commits. I'm going to go here and I'm going to press this little plus button, which is next to changes, which says, hey, stage everything. This does. Okay, cool. And then I'm going to make a commit message that says added ocean class. That's what I kind of did. I did other things too. I'm going to click this little check mark, which actually does commit the changes locally. And then I'm going to click these ellipses and click push, which pushes everything to my remote, which I set up earlier. And if everything works well, if I go and check on GitHub, which is here, and if I refresh, we should now have an additional commit that's added ocean class, which I did today. All right, just to show you the progression. Fantastic. I've got my ocean and everything's good. But guys, this is going to get cluttered pretty fast, right? And this is all about state machine pattern, like I said. Wouldn't it be great if I had a scene that could start off my game before I went to this scene? And the answer is absolutely, it would be great. But how do I set up a scene? I mean, I'm loading my game and I'm putting stuff in there and I have a stage. Well, there is another container type thing that we can use. Let me take a look here. If I look at the API documentation, so if I go to create.js, right? And if I look at documents or docs, it's going to say, well, docs for which one? Usually my easel.js is what I want to look at because that's where the scene, or sorry, the stage class lives. So I'm going to click on docs. And if I look at stage, okay, stage, by the way, there's stage GL if you wanted to use the a WebGL version of the stage. You could certainly do that. There are disadvantages, however. But so stage GL is where stage is what we're using. So this is stage. And it talks about stage being of type container. That's the stage class. However, container, if you look down here, it does exist. Here's container, right? So container is a type of display object. And it says a container is a nestable display list that allows you to work with a compound display elements. For example, I could group arm, leg, and torso and head of some kind of person container, right? So put all the objects together. Well, doesn't this give us an idea? I can group all objects that are attached to a specific scene in a container. And you know what? Container, it doesn't make any sense to me. I want to rename this thing as scene, and I want the scene to be an abstract superclass that has several different methods that I can always call over and over again from one scene to the other. So this is my first part of my design pattern. I need to have some kind of abstract class that I want to use as my scene class. All right, so going back to objects, it's an object. I'm going to make a new file. I'm going to call this class scene.ts. It's going to be in the module objects. And it's going to be abstract, and I'm going to export it. Export abstract class called the scene class, which is going to inherit from create.js.container, right? So it's going to be like a container. It's going to use a container, but I'm going to create my own extra things in my scene. All right, I know I might have some private instance variables. I know I'm going to have some public properties maybe, who knows. I probably will have my constructor, absolutely. There might be some private methods and some public methods. Okay, all the same stuff, right? Now, in my constructor, let's start with that one. I definitely want to, in my constructor, call my super constructor. That's all I need to do there. And that would constructor. That would be, what did I do wrong? Constructor, method, accessor property was expected. Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, so constructor super, and it calls my super constructor, and this makes my container. That's what it does. Cool. Now, this is my plan for all my scenes. So what do I want my scenes to have? I want my scene to have an update. I want my scene to have a main method. I want my scene to have a start method, right? Those three things for sure. I want my scene to have a destroy method. I want to be able to destroy my whole scene if I want to, right? Do I want my scene to have a reset method? Maybe, right? So that's like 5 methods that I want my scenes to potentially have, which are very similar to my game object methods, but they're going to be used differently. So I can call them. I can say public abstract, and then the first method that I want is my start method, right, which returns void. And I want public abstract method that is update. Those are the 2 first methods. And then I want some methods that are not as useful. Public abstract method called destroy, which I'm going to use for cleaning up. And then maybe a public abstract method that's going to be a reset method. That's going to reset my scene back to the original state, whatever that is. I don't know if I can do that all the time. Those 3 things. Plus, finally, and I'm going to use this one for sure, a public abstract method called main that I'm going to use to basically do all my work. Okay, so those are definitely all the methods that I want. And here, all I'm doing in this interface is listing all the methods that I want to override in my subclasses. Okay? The most amazing thing about this is that abstract classes in TypeScript can exist, right? Here's something else that I want you to think about. I've been doing this stuff over and over again, and I have, and this is for another day, not for today, but I have some stuff. For example, I have an update function. I have a start function. I have a destroy function. I have a reset function. All those functions I'm repeating over and over and over again, every single time, right? But it's like when I construct my abstract classes, I want to always have those classes come into play. Wouldn't it be nice if I had some interfaces that I can use? For example, something called Updatable. My Updatable interface. And my Updatable interface would be inherited from, or sorry, implemented in, right, my abstract class. So for example, I could say, if I had an interface like this, it's a point of discussion. I'm not going to do it right now. I could say, export abstract class scene extends create.js container, and then another keyword implements updatable, where my updatable interface has a abstract method called update. Why would I want that? Because then I could check to see if my abstract class was updatable, which it would be, right? Or destroyable, or startable, or resettable. Main doesn't make any sense, right? Mainable. Main doesn't make any sense. Main is like part of the class. But the rest, these things, start, update, destroy, and reset, I could actually include them in my player class. Look, and even in my game object, right? Because my game object superclass also has those things, right? Reset, start, update, destroy, right? No main, though. And there's no, there's one thing that's missing here. Another one that's, so the main that's missing, right? So I could inherit those interfaces here as well. And so I can say that, well, if I'm searching for something that's updatable, a player, scene, something else, I can check if my class is of type updatable. And if only the stuff that I want to update are things that are updatable, right? Right now, though, this discussion is, again, we're talking about reformatting or refactoring, and I don't want to do that. I just want to move on. But I'm going to point it out to you guys because some of you who are object-oriented experts in the class maybe are thinking, wait, there's some duplication here, right? Let's not duplicate code. Let's create an interface to help us, relate code together. But we're not going to do that right now. Because I don't want to confuse you too much more than I'm confusing you right now by even talking about it. So this is my plan for my scene class. Okay, now that I've made this thing, what I want to do is I want to connect it immediately to my index.html. Curious, where should it go? Should it go before my game object or after my game object? Does my scene need to know about game objects? Does my scene need to know about oceans and players and other objects? And the answer is it might. So I'm going to put it right down here. I'm going to say that script source and scripts. And this will be objects. And then it'll be the scene.js file is the one that I want. Okay? So that's going to be there. Scene is going to be after all the game objects. And I can start thinking about commenting this properly. Like, for example, I could say something like, this is where all my game objects are. Game objects are here. I could say something like, well, if that's true, my objects label and button are also objects. So I can kind of put them here, like to bundle them together. Right? And even my game object is something that's all part of the same thing, including my scene. So these are all my game objects. And these are all my managers. I could say something like, well, these are all my managers, right? I might have other managers, file manager, scene manager, asset manager, name it, whatever you want, game manager in this case. And then I'm going to have my core game. So these are my core game scripts, which I only have one right now, right? So I could, again, just from a documentation perspective and to make it clear to other players what I'm doing, here's what I'm doing, right? And this is the JavaScript section, but these files are all library files. So create.js, libraries. I'm kind of compartmentalizing here to kind of show that I'm putting my scripts in an order so you understand my thinking. That's what I'm doing here. And this is all attaching to game.js. All right, you know what? I'm not even going to test it before I put it up on GitHub. I'm going to go here to GitHub, and here's my scene and my game object to change a couple things, my index. I'm going to say that I'm going to just stage all these things, and I'm going to say that added scene class. Okay, I'm going to click this little check mark, click this little ellipses when I'm done, and push. And now my scene class is up on GitHub. Okay. Great. My scene class is there, but it doesn't do anything. And in order for me to test it, I need to create something else. Concrete scene classes. This is my abstract scene class, right? And you know what? I don't want to add my concrete scene classes inside of my game objects because they're not game objects. They're not objects. They're scenes. So I want to make a new folder. I know you guys are going to kill me because I'm adding new folders all the time, but it's organizational stuff. I'm adding a new folder called Scenes. Here's my Scenes folder. Hey, once I add a new folder, guess what? My module name is going to be called Scenes now, not objects anymore, right? So in my Scenes folder, I'm going to make a new scene, new file. Here's my new file. I'm going to call it the play scene. Okay, so here's my play scene.ts. You could also call it level 1, level 2, level 3, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to make my my module is going to be called scenes, and I'm going to export a new class called play, which is going to extend my objects.scene class. Uh-oh, it's giving me this little squirrely because it says, hey, guess what? You're not implementing the scene properly. It says something's wrong, right? And I left click onto it. It says all these methods got to be done there, Tom, right? You can't just like say you're implementing something without doing it. So if I go to my little light bulb, if I said implement inherited abstract class, boom, I get all these methods, which is what I want to do. And just like before, I don't have to write these methods, but I do have to modify them. There we go, separation. I also am missing my constructor function. I want to make that happen in, I'll just write it like this. These are public methods, right? There's also going to be make some room, private methods. I could have done that first too. There's also going to be one constructor function. This is where my constructor function is going to go. And then probably some public properties and some private instance variables or instance members, if you will, or class members, whatever you want to call it. All right, so in my constructor, we're going to call it constructor. Did it right this time? It's going to call the super constructor for now, which is going to call its super constructor. And I also want to call my start method because this dot start is going to be where everything starts. Okay, that's how it starts. This is how my play scene is looking so far. And I just want to wipe all these away for now. So I'm just going to get rid of them because I don't care about implementing any. I'm not going to want to throw any kind of errors right now. All right, cool. So I've got rid of all that. I've got my play scene. It's looking pretty good, except that it doesn't do anything. Okay, well, what I want to do is model my play scene after what I already have. So I'm going to go into my my core, and I want to look at my objects. Sorry, my core game. I'll be okay. There it is. And there it is. There's my core game. And this might be a good call for me to, I'm going to just close some of these little editors down. So I need core. I don't need ocean or all these other stuff for game object or player, but I do need play. And what I want to do is I want to make a split screen here. I want to put, on this side, I want to put my play scene. And on the other side, I want to put my game scene, right? So you see both side by side. And what I want to do here is on the left, I want to remove my game objects that are related to the player. So these ones. And I'm going to kind of transplant them over here, right, to this part. And I want to make them private instance variables, right? This is where I want to go. Okay. And I don't have to use the let keyword when I make instance variables. I can just do one of these, player and ocean. My convention for private anything is that I put underscore. Some people don't like that. You can also put M underscore for member variable. You can use S underscore for static variable. You can use P underscore for private variable. There's many different conventions. And if you're programming in C++, a lot of times they use P underscore or P and the name of the method for private, right? It's all up to you. I like the underscore. That's just me, okay? Underscore means private or protected. Okay, so that's one of the things I want to do. I've included those things. My play scene has that stuff. I'm just going to get rid of this over here so we just don't duplicate, right? Now you can see my game scene has some issues because it's depending on those things. Update. I'm going to update my ocean up to my player. Well, let's do that over here. So in my play scene, I'm going to move these things. So cut them and move them over into my play scene for now. And I can't just do ocean and player. I need to use this keyword. This.ocean. This.player. And it can't be ocean and player. It has to be underscore ocean and underscore player. Yeah? So I've updated them now. Okay. Keep going. In my main, I have all this stuff. I want to grab all this stuff from my game and put all this stuff down here in my main over here. Wait, how do I get to my main from my start? I don't right now, but I'm going to. I'm going to call main, this.main, from my start method for now, so it gets there. So far I go constructor, start calls main, I'm going to do all this, and then I'm just going to rename these things to this dot underscore ocean and this dot underscore, what the heck is, can I do stage? Is that what I want to do? Well, no, this is why I made the class in the first place. This scene is what I want to add stuff to. I don't want to add it to the stage. I want to add it to this because this is a container. So I can do that. So I can say that I want to add the stage to my scene. And I'm just going to update this part here and this part here. Horrible. Right, cool. I've done this part. It looks good. I've got everything I need in there. And it should do everything that my other thing would do if somehow I was able to call play.ts. right now, I don't call anything. I just made a play scene, and I just decimated my game scene. So my game scene is like, doesn't have this stuff anymore, right? And I'm just going to go through here and take a look and make sure there's nothing else that's mentioning it. No, 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 no. I don't have anything but update, right? Okay, cool. One more thing I'm missing is my scene, my play scene has never been connected to my index.html. So over here, I'm going to go on this side. I'm going to go to my index.html. And I can probably get rid of this now. And I can go to this and say, okay, well, cool. I want to make my scene added to my game. Does my game, my core game, need to know about my play scene? Yes. Does my play scene need to know about my scene.js superclass? Yes. That means it's got to go in here between these two things. So it's going to be like all my scenes go here. And I'm just going to copy paste just to make it quick. And I got to change my folder. So it's going to be scenes. And this will be play. Great. I've attached my play scene to my index.html, which is the manifest for all my files. Can't go along without it. I have to always do that. Whenever I make a new script, always attach it to index.html. Fantastic. All right. But I still haven't used it in my game.ts now. I just initialized my game, and I need to do something with my scene. For now, what I'm going to do is at the top, I'm going to make a new variable called play, which is of type scenes, right? Dot play. That's the play scene. Okay? And as I scroll down, what I want to do in my main this time is instead of making some variables come up, I just want to call my play scene. So I want to do something like this. I want to say that, okay, cool. In my main, I want to say that I want to add the play scene to the stage. How do I do that? Maybe like this. So I'm going to say play is equal to a new scenes play. So that's me instantiating my new scene, right? And then I want to add my scene to my stage. So I say that stage.addChild play. Hey, whoa, whoa, whoa. This is crazy what I just did, right? I went to my play scene. Here's my play scene. And I have my main and my main in my game scene. And let's just do one of these again. I want to look at my play on the right side and my game on the left side. And what the heck am I doing here? Well, here I added ocean and player to the scene, the play scene. And here I'm adding the whole play scene to my stage. So it's like I have a container that I add on top of my stage. That's what I'm doing. But one thing that's missing over here is I need to update my stage. If I call update on my play, if I call update, then anything that's listed in update is going to update. It's going to be a cascading update this way. Now, there's other ways to do this without doing this, by the way. We'll talk about that. But what I can do is do something like this. I want to say that my play.update. So I'm going to update my play scene every frame. I'll be okay. Okay, so that's what that has to happen, right? If I don't call my update on my play scene, then this update method will never be called, right? And if this is update never going to be called, then my update method for my ocean and my player is never going to be called, right? And so nothing will move, right? So it's like a cascading update. Okay, going back to the whole idea of updatable. Now you know what I mean. I want to be able to have a list of objects that I have to update. Instead of me listing them here, I could have a list that holds all objects I have to update, and then it would just run through the list. But for now, let's go back and check my game and see if it's actually working. And it is. So what's happened is I have another layer of abstraction. Okay, so just go back to this to explain what I just did. And I'm going really slow here compared to other times, okay? You might say, what is he talking about? This isn't slow at all. So let's go 800 by 800. And let's make a file that's 640 by 480. That's something like this. So we'll say that that's really ugly, but let's say 640 by 480. We'll make it black, not yellow. So this, let's suppose that this thing here is my stage. All right, so this is what I'm really doing. So this is my stage. Again, please forgive me if you know what I've already done, but I need to explain this so that future generations in the future time will actually understand what the hell I did, right? Okay, this is my stage, and what happens is in my stage, I've actually loaded in another container called scene, right? And a specialized version of it called play, right? So I'm going to do this. I'm going to copy these two things. And I'm going to kind of copy paste and move them over here. So imagine that I'm doing something like this. I have my stage in the background, and then I have my scene in the foreground, right? That's what's really happening. My scene is layered on top of my stage. And then inside of my scene, I'm going to have these other objects, right? These other objects that are inside my scene. Let's just make these as game objects, right? Again, I'm just drawing this out for you, not because I want to drive you crazy, believe me, or waste my time, but because I need you to understand this, because in a test, every time we do this, they're like, I don't understand how things loop together. Well, if this is a game object, right? And I can have as many game objects in my scene as I want. And if we say that anything that's inside of another thing, like any square here, any rectangle is inside of another one to some degree, you know, I can have many game objects, right? Each of these game objects are going to be housed in my scene, which are also going to be added to the stage. But here's the thing. In this scenario, if you look at the game objects, all right, what is the direct parent of these game objects, guys? These game objects. Well, my scene is the direct parent. And what is the direct parent of my scene? The stage is the direct parent of my scene. What about this? Are these game objects the grandchildren of my stage? Yes. They have a relationship. In fact, I could say something like scene.parent, which would be the stage, right? I could say that this child's .parent. I could do that in CreateJS, but it can be rather confusing. So we don't do it. But I just wanted to show you this thing because that's what we're doing. All right, so yeah, it's running. So back to this. So I added a scene, and I added the play scene, and it runs. And I made all these changes. Guess what? I added a play scene. I'm going to add it to GitHub. So I'm going to click all these things. I'm going to say added play scene. And I'm going to click this little button here to make a commit. And I'm going to push. And that's going to push everything up to GitHub for me. So now you have the play scene like before. If you actually look at GitHub, you'll see that all of my code for the play scene is there. Okay. But I said finite state machine. That's what I said. That means I'm going to have more than one scene. Not just one scene, many scenes, right? How do I switch between them? Well, why don't we do some stuff? I want to create a couple of more scenes. I want to create a start scene and an end scene, okay? Or maybe what we'll say is a start scene and an over scene. Game over, game start, all right? So cool. I'm going to do that. I'm going to make a new file. I'm going to call it the start.ts. .tw. Sure. Rename. Start.ts. And just to get going, I'm also going to make another scene just to start off with, which is going to be called over.ts. So the start and over scene. Okay, so two scenes. They're empty right now, and they don't have any scene style whatsoever. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take everything that's in my play scene, copy, paste, inside of my start scene. So copy everything, go to my start scene, paste everything. Heck, did it not do that? Everything, copy, paste. There. Yay. And instead of calling it play, we'll just rename this thing to start. Right, there we go. Start will not have a player, but maybe I want the ocean. So I want the ocean in my start scene, so it looks cool. And I want something that's like my welcome label. So I want to say a new object in my start called private, I'll call it welcome label, which is of type objects.label, objects.label, right? There we go. So far, so good. And, well, I'm not going to update my player anymore because there's no more player in my start scene, right? But I do have an ocean I want to update. And I'm not going to add my player to the scene. However, I am going to add a new label to the scene. So I'm going to say that this._ welcome label is equal to a new objects.label. And in my objects.label, I'm going to have the label name, which I'm going to say mail pilot. That's what the name of the thing is going to be called. And I'm also going to have a font size, which I'm going to make it something like 60 pixels, something really big. And I'm also going to have a font family, which is going to be called Consolus. These are all things we worked out before. And a font color on a blue ocean, maybe yellow would be good. So probably something like, you know, FFFF00 for yellow. Hey, that would be really good if we had like standard colors. And whenever I say that, by the way, you know what that means, right? I want standard colors. And, you know, from my X coordinate, it's half of the stage, the 320. Wow, I'm hard coding. That's bad. I need to not hard code. Whenever I say that, by the way, it means that I need to do something about that. And then 240 for my, you know, for my label. There we go. That's in the middle of my screen, right? And is it centered? Absolutely, right? So I'm adding all those properties in all at once in the constructor function. Yay. And now I want to add this label to the stage, right? So I want to say that this dot, remember, it's not the stage, but my option is add child into my scene, this dot _ welcome label. On my welcome label, say, hey, mail pilot. But I want a start button. I want a start button to do stuff with. Do I have a start button in my assets? If I look at my assets, I have in my images no start button, but I do have a click me button. I want to make a start button and a reset button, something like that, a restart button. How about that? I want a start button and a restart button. Well, I can go back to the drawing board. I'm going to go down here to my click me button, double click, which is going to pull up this button over here. No, I don't want to save these things for now. And what I want to do here is, first of all, let's fix my button. It really bugged me that the bottom was kind of like this. I didn't make any difference last time, but I do want to bring this button kind of in so it's more rounded. And same thing on the top. So make it even more like this. There we go. And maybe from the right and left, like that's kind of weird too. It's kind of not, it's kind of truncated. I don't know what happened this time around. There we go. And it's not centered because it's kind of off. So I'm going to say modify. You can do this in Create.js. Sorry, in Fireworks. If I can actually do this, I want to. Wow, it's because my screen is not the right size, but I know the command is it's Control-Alt-T if I'm not wrong. Control-Alt-T. There we go. Which actually, what it does is it fits to the canvas. Excuse me. All right, so now instead of click me, this doesn't make any sense. Let's call this start. And I want my start button, my label for my start button to be centered. So I'll make this whole thing centered. I meant to do this. I'll be okay. Start. And I'll save this file, save as, and I'll save this button as the start button. Start. So some new assets. Start button. Okay. And let's just change this right away to the restart button. So restart. Okay, so restart. Let's make sure this is centered. There we go. I'm going to file, save as, restart button. So I have these two additional assets. There we go. Made the assets. Go back into code. I have them. You can see that there's two assets that I have, but I have no need for this click me button anymore. That is absolutely useless. Let's just delete it. Delete. Yes, I do. I want to get rid of the click me button. Move it to this. However, we have a problem because in my game.ts file, which is in core, I don't load my start and restart button, but I do load, or maybe I did load at one point, my my click me button. Here I need to load them. I'm just going to put them at the top. One of them is going to be called start button, and the other one is going to be called restart button. And they're going to be in restart.png, PNG, start button, sorry. And of course, I'm going to be making a restart button.ping. Okay, so then I have my two buttons. They're going to load. That's what this does. Some changes. I'm doing a bunch of changes at once this time because I want to save time, guys. That's why I'm doing it this way. But I think you get what I'm trying to do. All right, and if I go to my start scene, I have to add my button. So again, going up here, I have my welcome label and my ocean. Let's also define a button. It doesn't matter the order, so I'm just declaring. So I'll call this the start button, which is of type objects.button. And down inside my my main, as an example, I can say that this._start button is equal to a new objects.button. And what I want to do is in my start button, it's going to say my image string, which is my start button, my X and Y number. So it's going to be 320. I was actually wired, right? 320, and instead of 240, I'm going to be lower than 240, so something like 360. Let me just turn this back on. This is down.
Half the circuit.
Yeah. So let's say something like that. Oh, this is turning back on. And what I'll do is I'll stop these things. Google Hangouts stopped, so stop sharing. And I'll stop this one. This didn't work, so I'll stop broadcast. That stopped too. And gentlemen, maybe I'm back. I might be back. Yeah. Looks like I'm back.
There you are.
Okay, that was weird. So I was going to make another event, but it didn't happen. We did lose power here. So that is why I cut off. And that means that I'm continuing. I would have made a new thing. What I did do is, for those people who can see it, I have, unfortunately for the people that are in the class, they cannot. My screen is still down. Don't I love it? Okay. Return to system. Power on. Waiting for system to power down. Yeah, that's not really happening right now. It's not allowing me to start. Anyways, so yeah, so for people who can see it, if you want to watch my broadcast, you're good, even the guys in the class. What I did was I just added to my start button. I added my start button to the scene. And my start button is here. That's great. I added my start button. Well, my biggest problem with my start button is it doesn't have an event listener. So I like to put the event listener underneath. So I'll do something like this._start button.on click. And when I do click, I want to do, maybe I'll do an anonymous function for now that does a button click. So what do I want the button click to do? And just a second, let's see if I can start the screen off.
Maybe you just have to.
I want to do my laptop. I'm just starting off the screen again, guys. For those people who are remote, please bear with me while I do that. For the people that are here, yay. Yeah. So I want to call this. What I want to do here, so I'll use some comments. I'm going to say something like start, the play scene. That's what I want this to do. However, I don't have any code to do this right now. I don't have any code for this, right? That's what I want this scene to do. I want to start the play scene with my start scene when I click the start button. That's what I want it to do. And I have not even a way of testing the start scene yet. Kind of, right? I'm working on it, guys. Let's see if I've got power now. Woohoo! I might have power on one screen and maybe not the other one. Yes. One of these. How about that? So yeah, so sorry, I'm fully back now, finally, somehow. I don't know how that happened, but I don't even know if we're on reserve power. It's still kind of funny. It doesn't look like we're fully back. I think we're going to drop again. Anyways, so we've got this stuff where I have my welcome label, and I just added a start button, and I'm trying to finish constructing my start scene. Here's something. Why the heck do I need my start method? It doesn't do anything. It just goes to main, right? So what I can think about is where I want to start declarations. Maybe what I can do is do some of this. Move this, my ocean, into start. I do all my declarations in start just to separate them. This is actually pretty good form. And then I'll do the same thing with my label. I'll move that into start. I didn't do this in my play scene, but I can go back and fix that. And I can do the same thing with my other two things. So I'm going to grab this one, move that into start. And I can also do, well, that's probably the only thing I want to do. So these three things. Okay, cool. So I can add them in here, and then I can use the add child method to add them to the scene in main. So this is kind of cutting main down a little bit and makes main a little bit more streamlined. Okay. Which is cool. So my start scene kind of is ready right now, I think. It just allows me to start the scene, except there is no start scene code yet. Okay, cool. Let's fix my over scene, which is going to be very similar to my start scene. That's why I'm going to just copy paste everything for now. So copy paste, go to my over scene and paste that in. It looks like start, but it doesn't. It's not start. It's called over. You're taking off?
Yeah, I need to leave early. Is there something you need to tell us about the project? Because none of my team members will be here.
I'm going to broadcast it if I do.
Okay.
It's going to be due next week. The first playable of the project is due next week.
The coming week, right?
Yep.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to rename my symbol. I'm going to call this thing the restart button. So it's going to be restart button. This is in my over scene, right? So it makes sense. It won't be a welcome label. I'll rename this label. I'm going to use a label, but it won't be a welcome. I'll rename this symbol to the over label, the game over label maybe. I'll call it game over label. I'm going to do that too. So game over label, I still have the ocean. I want to have my restart button. And what my game over label is going to say is game over. Game over. Instead of my start button, I'll have my restart button. That's what's going to come up. That's what it's going to look like. And then I'm going to call my restart button .onClick, and it's going to start the play scene again. That's kind of similar. So now my over scene is done for now. My over scene, and so is my start scene and my play scene. They're all done. Okay, cool. So I added my start and my two scenes. So if I go here, I can see that these are the things I've changed. I've added my start scene and my over scene. So let's put that in there. So I'll save them. And I added some buttons too. Added start scene and over scene with a bunch of other stuff. And then I'll click this. Oops. I'll click this. I'll click this. And I'll click push. There we go. Great. So that pushed everything to up online. And I have a couple of scenes now I can work with. Okay. Next part. What I want to do is in my game.ts file, which is way up here. I'll just kind of kill these two things for now because I don't need those editors. What I want to do is be able to switch between the different scenes depending on what the player decides to start with, right? And I want to do something like this. I want to have this idea of what the current scene is. And instead of specifically telling my play scene to update, I want to update whatever the current scene is. So I need something called current scene, all right? I also need some other way of knowing that my state has to change from my current scene to another scene. So I need something else called current state. So instead of my play scene, let's rename this play scene, and we'll rename the play scene current scene. Right now it says scenes.play, right? But we don't want it to be of type scenes.play. We want it to be of type objects.scene. Why is that? Because we don't know which scene it's going to be. It's going to be just some scene, right? It's using the abstract superclass scene as a building block. It's saying, hey, I want to have some kind of scene. I don't know which one it's going to be. This is part of the design pattern, right? I know I need a scene, but I don't know which scene. It could be any scene I want. Okay, that's one. Second thing is I need to have the current state. So I'm going to say that the current state is a number, right, between 0 and whatever. But this is going to get cumbersome. Imagine if I make 0 the start scene, and 1 the play scene, and 2 the end scene. And what about if I had level 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? I added some other scenes, transition scenes, tutorial scenes, whatever. I can't just keep incrementing the number. That's a real pain. And who's going to remember all that stuff? So an enumeration works really well here, which means I need to add some kind of additional enumeration. Now, for those people who don't know what enumeration is or forgot because you haven't used it in a long time, what it does is it gives a friendly name. Ooh, that was bright. A friendly name to some integers. So if I go to typescriptlang.org, by the way, I haven't had a chance to do this, but TypeScript has updated to 3.1, right? For now, though, just to make my project stable, I'm leaving it at 3.03 or whatever I had, okay? Not many changes that are breakable for us. Okay, if I go to documentation and if I look at my handbook and if I see that I want enumerations, here's enums. They look like this. This is the standard way of doing it. Enum, the direction, and then I can have up, down, left, and right. And those things are way nicer than if I say 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't want to know what 1, 2, 3, 4 is. And I may have a lot of other ones I want. So that's why I want an enumeration. Okay, but where the heck do I put it in my folders? Like where? Is it my core? Do I put it in a config? A util? Like what is it? Right? So there's a lot of choices here. And one of the things that we also have to keep mind of, we haven't added the scenes to my index.html. That's one thing we haven't done. So before we forget, I want to add them in. I'm going to add my place, my start scene, and my end scene. Curious, order. Does my start scene need to know about my place scene? Yes, because it needs to go to my place scene eventually. So let's put that here. And does my place scene need to know about my end scene? Yes. So my place scene needs to go, my end scene needs to go there. So it's going to be like this. End, or over, it's called, and start. Almost like in reverse order. Okay? Do you have to do it that way? No. It's for completeness for now. Later on, it won't matter. But order matters right now. Okay? Going back to my enumeration, where should I put it? Any thoughts, gentlemen? Should I put it inside of, hold on, should I put it inside of core, managers, objects, scenes, or something else?
If you do put it anywhere that's current, you should put it in core.
Should put it in core. But if you're going to make a new folder, a new structure, and if I was going to have other configuration values, maybe a config module, config dot, and then the enumeration, right? Or I could put it in a scene manager, right? Scene dot, and then the name of my scene, right? So managers dot scene dot.
I'm going to use the global.
Right? Well, it's going to be a global anyway, right? Because something that I want to access from anywhere I want, right? So I could put it there. So that's something that I could think about doing. A global, some kind of enumeration that I get, all right? So I could put it anywhere. I got to think of where it's supposed to go. It's definitely a scene enumeration. Scene dot something is what it should sound like, right? And it should be something dot scene dot and whatever it's going to be, right? Something dot scene dot over, something dot scene dot start, something dot scene dot play. That's what it's going to look like, okay? For my enumeration. I just don't know what the something is going to be. So I'm thinking about making a config. Let's make it, I can put it in util or config or whatever. Let's make a new folder called config, right? My config folder is going to have one file right now called scene.ts. And my scene is going to have an enumeration in it, right? The scene enumeration. So I'm going to say module config. And inside my module config, going back to my documentation on enums, it's got to look enum and then some name for the enum, which is going to be called scene. So enum scene. But inside my scene, I have to have all my enumerations like this. So one of them is going to be called start. I like using capitals with my enumeration. It makes sense, right? And start is going to be 1, and then it's going to be play, and then it's going to be over. Those are my 3 scenes so far. You can add as many as you want in here. And notice that I have 0. It automatically does 0, 1, and 2. It kind of figures that out by itself, which is kind of neat. All right, that's pretty cool. One thing also as a trick, here is a hack for you guys who are game guys, right? I'm also going to do something like this. Okay, so at the bottom of my scene, I'm also going to say scene count. Scene count. Can you figure this out? What would this do? If I called my config.scene count, it's going to be 3. And if I insert scenes before my scene count, it'll nicely know how big how many scenes I have without trying to figure it out manually. I will know the total number of scenes I have in my framework that I can use, which is a hack for you guys. By the way, I found this out through long hours of having trouble figuring out how do I count my scenes, right? All right, so put that in there. Whenever you do enumerations, this is a good hack, if you will. The last enumeration could be some kind of counter that counts all the other pieces. All right, and notice it's in order. So 0, 1, 2, there's only 3 of them, and 3 actually represents the number, right? 0, 1, 2, we use zero-based counting. If this was something else, if scene counts, if started at 1, this wouldn't work. Okay, but anyways, this is okay. And what we want to do is in my index.html, I got to think that, well, my scenes need to know about my configs. In fact, I might as well put all my configuration files just after the managers. Maybe even managers might need to know about them. I might have to put them way at the top. Like, so I want to probably put all my configuration files at the beginning. So something like, you know, config files, config files, right? And this one is going to be called a script. And I'm going to say that it is of type scripts, config, and then scene.js. There's my scene config so far. By the way, my scene config is weird because I have some other things I can put in there. I can have a screen config. A screen config could be the size of my screen. If I wanted to make my size of my screen something that I could modify, I could put like width, height, and so I don't have to put in fixed values, hard-coded values in here. I could do that, but I won't because I'm not refactoring today. I'm just moving on. I'm putting the bare minimum that I need to get my minimum viable product working today. That's what I want to do, okay? All right, cool. So this is good. Within reason, by the way, within reason. I've got all this. We're good to go. And let's go back to my core game.ts. All right, back to this. I have my current state. Instead of it being a number, it's going to be of type, this is great, config, right, which is my config scene dot, I have objects, right? I also have config dot, and then the scene type, which is scene. And it says, whoa, I don't know what config is. Sometimes this happens. Because what happens is it's trying to make linkages with all this stuff, right? And there are times where, unfortunately, I have to close down my editors like this and relaunch them. And sometimes it helps. Sometimes I have to rejig this whole thing. Here's a question. This could be real. And the reason why it could be real is because of my config. I didn't make this public, or I didn't export this enumeration, which is probably what it's looking for. Yay. Let's go back and see if that fixed it. It did. I was right and wrong at the same time. Okay, so current state is of type config.scene. It's going to need to get that configuration for me to set up my current state. So those are the things that I have, but I never set them up yet. And I want to do that inside of start. So on the bottom of start, before I go to main, I'm going to set up two things, my current scene and my current state. Okay, they're kind of one and the same. So my current state is what I really want. So current state is equal to config dot scene dot start. That's my current state. When I first start the game, I want to go to my start scene, right? And all this is a number. It's just a number that says it's number 0. That's what it is, right? Cool. This is the first part. Then it goes to main. And in main, instead of me doing this specifically with my current scenes that's play, I don't want to do this, right? What I want to do is I want to have a checker, right? I want to do something that looks like this in main, a switch case. I want to say switch on current scene, or current state, sorry, current state, case config.scene.start, then do something, case config.scene.play do something else. And then case config.scene.over then do something else. This, my friends, is my finite state machine, right? So by default, what I wanted to do is I want to set this up differently every single time. But I don't want to do this every case. It's only at the end. Whatever the case is, I'm going to add that scene to the stage. So I want to take this, cut it, go into my play scene, and put it in there. So this is how the play scene would look. My current scene, when the user selects to play, my current scene is going to be the play scene, right? And like the same thing, when my user wants to start, my current scene is going to be the start scene. There it is. And when this is true, and somehow I get to my over scene, my current scene is the over scene, and that's the one I want to load in main. Okay? That's the one I want to load. However, there are issues. There are big issues. For example, how do I switch scenes? How do I change my current state? And where do I check for this? Right? It's going to come down to me coming back to main at some point, right? And the best place for this is here in update. I want to say something like this. I want to say that, well, if my current scene, my current state, right, is not equal to my current state somehow, right? I can't do this, but I'm just putting, this is pseudocode, okay? Then I want to go to main and check out what my current state is. I need to keep track of what my current state is globally. What did I just say? Globally. I need to create another current state variable in my game object, superclass. So if I go to in my managers.game, I need to make another reference to this. So when I first set up my current state, I can compare it with the state that I've changed to. So I can say something like public static current state is of type config.scene. Sorry, my current state is of type config.scene. Whatever that type is. I don't know what it is, but that's what the thing, like my current state is of type scene. I don't know which one, right? And somewhere in my core, in my game.ts, what I need to do is compare if my current state is not equal, this current state that's inside of my scene is not equal to my current state that's online. So I can compare it like this. If that is not equal to my managers.game.current state. If that's not true, right? If that's not true, then go to main and do this thing again, right? That's what I wanted to do. So this is the check, my friends. If my current state is not equal to managers.game.current state, then do something else. Whoa. Okay, but, huh? What? How do I change that? Well, my current state here so far has been set to start. This is how it would work. Let's trace it. So right now it's start. And imagine in my start method, if I change my managers.game.current state to something else. For example, in my start scene, here's my start scene. I have this little button called start button.on. I could say that start button. I could say that, sorry, managers.game.current state is equal to config.scene.play. Now I've switched it from start to play. And because I'm checking every frame if it's changed, right? Then in my game, this is my game manager. My game manager is really in my core, right? Because I change it here, right? I go to main. And now my current state This is where my current state has to be. I have to do some work, right? I say that, well, if my current state is config.scene.play, if my current state is that, right? But it isn't, right? Then I want to start my new scene and I want to set my current state to this. So I really want to say something like this. I want to say that my current state, right, is equal to whatever the current state is, my current state that's coming from my game object, managers.game.current_state. Which means that up here, when I set my current state to config.start, I also got to set my managers.game.current_state that equals to current state. I'm just saving it, the information, yes.
Doesn't it make more sense to not have that current state assignment happen within main? To have just move the current state equals managers.game.current state into main, into the start of main.
Yeah, but then it's always going to be this, right? Every time main, we're going to go back to main every single time, right?
Well, we only go back to main when it doesn't match.
Right, and when it doesn't match, instead of me checking current state in game is going to keep track of the last current state before I switch scenes.
Exactly.
Right?
So, but you want the new one.
Right, which is going to be, my switch is going to be here. So it's going to be managers.
Okay.
.current state. That's what I'm switching, right? So if I switch on this, depending on what I'm in here, I'm going to switch, and then I'm going to say my current state is equal to this, the new state that I got. I can do it here. By the way, I could also do it in update, whatever I want. So I could do that here. This is one option, Pedro.
Yeah.
I can do that like this, and I got to do that every single time, right? So I could do this at the end. Like I can take this and put it down here, right? I could do that. Or I could do it up here. I could say if current state is not equal to da-da, right? Then I could say that current state is equal to this, which is like this. And that means I don't have to change this. And or add this. Is again optimization, but it works. Right? So I change it. So I change it here.
That was what I was saying.
Yeah, I could do it here. I'm saying there's different ways to do it. Same thing, right? And so we said the same thing, I guess, right? In different ways. So current state is equal here. So we're setting it, and then we check it, and if it's different, we go to that new scene, whatever that is. Let's just take these comments out because they're the same. Okay, cool. I think. But here's the problem. I'm going to bring this up now because this looks good, right? However, I know something you don't, unless you've looked ahead, right? Memory problems. My scene will never go away. When I switch scenes, I need to destroy all the game objects that have been attached to it, right? That's one thing I need to do because I'm switching states, right? I'm destroying all game objects. I'm removing all children. That's what I'm going to do. For sure, before I switch. Because if I don't remove the game objects, they'll still stay on my scene. I know that for sure. So. There's a couple ways to do that. One, my destroy function, right? I have a destroy function inside all of my scenes, right? So in my destroy function, in my start scene, right? Notice there's this empty destroy function. I could say something like this. Remove all children. Yeah, and that removes all the children from the scene, right? And I want to do this every single time because I want to call the destroy function of the current scene that I'm leaving before I, I add my new scene in, because otherwise I'm going to have a memory leak. I'm going to do this. So I'm going to go here, go to play, the same thing. However, what's the order? Can I destroy everything, leave everything before I go? And the answer is yes, because I'm just removing objects from my scene. I can do that within my scene. That's like adding things to my scene. I can remove everything from my scene because I'm switching scenes anyway, right? It's just when I'm going to do it that's important. So I'm just going to put these. I'm just updating all these scenes here. So there's a big update, the one I'm doing right now. And okay, cool. So I'm removing them, and let's go to my first scene. So my start scene is the first thing that moves me around. It says on my click, when I start my button, click my button, I'm going to say that my managers.game.current_state.config.scene.play is going to be changed, right? Well, let's destroy myself. This dot underscore or this dot destroy. Uh-oh. How come I can't get to this? Well, my friends, because this is not this. It's referring to this, right? The way I've written it, right? The scope of this hangs inside of my function. However, there's a fix for this. No pun intended. I could use something called arrow functions, which is new to JavaScript, or fairly new, ECMAScript 2015, 2016, and also TypeScript allows and supports arrow functions that look like this instead of using the function keyword. What the arrow function does by default, it preserves the keyword this. So I could do something like this dot, and now I have access to destroy, which is what I want to do. I need to do that like this. Okay. Sorry, but I know this is, I jumped a little bit, but if you put it as in an inline function, the way I had it, right? An anonymous function that I called as a callback or a event handler, it sees this code block as the context for this keyword, right? Yes.
So I might be getting ahead of myself again, but doesn't this cause us to have to worry about the destroy code in every given scene? Couldn't we have the destroy happen within main whenever we switch scenes?
I could, but why not destroy itself? Because we're not really destroying anything. All I'm doing is removing all children, right? So if I was destroying something else, if I was destroying a plane and then I wanted to make an explosion sound, the plane would be destroyed before the explosion sound would happen, and therefore the sound wouldn't happen. I would have a problem. But here, there's no conflict. I have a container, which is the scene, and I remove all the children before I switch my scene. I'm going to destroy my scene because my pointer to the scene is going to change, right?
I was just worrying about duplicating.
No, it's going to be here. If I did it the other way around, then I could say this dot destroy. I could say that the current scene dot destroy. I could do it that way, is what you're saying, right? So you're saying going back to here for here that before I switch scenes or do this, current scene is equal to this.
Just before the switch.
Just before the switch. Before I do, but the problem with is my current scene is still active. My current scene is whatever it is. So before the switch, I could do something like what you said, which is current scene dot destroy. However,
we get a frame without.
However, yeah, because I haven't, for the first scene that I've never loaded, it's empty. So there's no destroy function yet because I haven't instantiated anything. I'll get an error first time around. So I could say if current scene not equal to null or undefined, right? Yes, it's ugly. I could do that, and then it would check to see if current scene exists. If current scene doesn't exist, then it won't do this one. It'll ignore the destroy. So it could look like something like this. I could say, and this is kind of optimizing, if current scene, this current scene doesn't exist at the beginning, I could do, and I'm using curly braces. I know some people hate curly braces all the time, but it's just safer for me. I could do something like this. I could say that, well, if my current scene exists, then destroy current scene, and then do this. And that would save your space with a couple of extra curly braces and a branching statement. Which means, going back to my play scene, my start scene, I don't have to do this here. I could leave that extra line. I would save 3 lines of code.
And the arrow function.
Sorry?
You don't need the arrow function?
Which function?
The arrow, using the arrow notation.
I wouldn't, but
you
it's okay. Yeah, it's not going to hurt me. In fact, it's better, right? So, yeah. So that does that. So it switches inside my over. I'm glad you guys are paying attention because this is where it gets hairy, right? So here.
It's actually better though because we're still going to get the gap. Are we going to get an empty frame before it loads?
No,
okay.
You won't. It's so fast that you won't notice, right?
Okay.
Even if you get one empty frame, it's like 1/60th of you know, yeah, 1/60th of a second. It's so fast you won't notice. Your eyes won't flash. It might be a delay. It might be a delay. Especially if it takes long for a scene to load with lots of objects, then you'll get you need a loading screen, right? But otherwise, for our little game, no, right? All right, cool. So the scene plays, and I don't have a way of getting this to over yet because the over scene is we can get there only when my player dies. We don't have a death condition yet, right? So this is good. It looks all good. It looks like it's going to work. Let's make sure that it's all linked. So first, before I check, is this all linked? So game object, label, over start play, game. I got my game scene. Let's go and check to see what, you know, crazy stuff is happening. All right, that looks pretty good, right? You should have this right now. And if I click start, then I get this. Yay! Right? I'm in a new scene. Okay, checks. Checks. How many objects are in my scene right now? Come on, right now in this scene. How about this? How many objects are in this scene right now? 3. My background, my start, and my mail pilot, and my scene container. So that's 4, right? So how do I check that? I can check that every frame. I can check that every frame if I look at the start of my scene. So I can say something like, for now, I'll just check it in my start scene and in my play scene, okay? So in my start scene, start.ts, at the beginning, after I added my stuff, which is right here, I could check to see how many members there are, and I'll do a console.log, and I'll say number of children are, and I'll say that I'm going to look at the managers.game.stage. I want to count the number of children. Children. And if this is not wrong, if this is wrong, then if you notice num children, it says property, number of children, how many numbers. I want to print that out. I'm using the old JavaScript methodology because I'm doing this plus. The new JavaScript methodology uses this method with backtick, right? Remember backtick? I can do this. I can say that it's now a template, right? And I can look at it as $ curly brace and put that in play. And what that $ curly brace does is it says that, hey, whatever's in the $ curly brace, I want to inject into this script called number of children. That's ECMAScript 2016 and TypeScript. Okay, so I want to know how many are in my start scene. Okay, so let's see how that works out. So if I play, and if I save it, and if I go to inspect, and I want to see how this is, I have number of children 0. What? How's that possible? Stage.numChildren. I can't have 0 children on the stage. Well, that's wrong.
The only child of the stage is the scene.
There should be 1 then.
Yes.
Right?
The others are childs of the.
Okay, let's see if I can see the managers.game.stage. How about that? I want to know the stage. I want to see the stage object, right? So I have a stage, name is equal to null, right? And let's just do one more thing. I just want to make sure that I undo. And I will comment this out. And I'm also going to just put in, I want to see the stage. So I'm going to say console log, just this. I want to see the stage, right? Well, what is the stage? So cool. Back to this. I have a stage, right? And I can look at children. And it says that I have 0, right? 0 children. My friends, this is incorrect, right? This is totally, oh no, it says children 3, ocean, label, and button. So this is on children. The children of the children, right? So that's what I'm looking for. I want to really look at the children of the children. Number of children, right? So number of children, and then so stage.numChildren dot. And what I really want to find is the stage's child, main child, right? And I want to look at numChildren is a property, right? And I want to kind of look at all the children on the stage, right? So that's what I was going to do there. I guess I could. I don't think get children is might be deprecated. They keep a lot of stuff here in get numChildren. How about that?
That would be the same
Children.
thing. That's for the same property.
Let's see. Oh, it is deprecated. Look, it says deprecated. Right? It says use numChildren. Yeah. Let's just do. I'm just trying to check to see if there's a memory leak. So let's just do this here for now. So I'll do one of these. Game managers like game.stage, right? I want to get that here, and I want to do it when I go to. Maybe what I can do is this. I'll instead of doing it here, I'll do it every time I switch. Put that. So, no, it has to be done here because then I'll put it here, and I'll also put it in play, the bottom of play. There we go. What is the problem? Managers.game.stage, yeah? I don't think there's a problem anyway. All right, so yeah, I'm here in MailPilot, and I see that I have numChildren, children, and it says that I have 3 children, Ocean, Label, and Button. That's it. Okay, if I click Start, and now I go back to this.
You have to click the 0 start.
Which?
The zero start, that's the first child of the actual stage. That's the scene.
Yes.
So if you click that, it'll show you the new one below it.
I did.
Oh, didn't update it?
No. Because this was done on wow, that's weird.
Oh, it's because wait, when do we have the log getting pushed
This
up?
is happening down here, but it's got a weird error. It's got a weird error. Oh, it's because it's outside of the class. That'll be okay. It's supposed to go here. Yeah. Sorry, I messed up. Okay. Whew. Okay, so la la, and that is there. And if I click Start, then I have another one in Start where I have 2, right? Children 2. Okay, and that's what I want to check. I want to check if it doesn't go up. I don't want it to go to 5. And every time I load the stage, it goes more and more and more, right? That would be very bad. Okay? That's what I did already. Yeah, that's what I'm checking because I don't know. I don't want a memory leak because this, after a long time, if you kept on playing the game and going back and forth and restarting and whatever.
Could you go back for a second?
That means that we don't put the.
What do you want?
Because I think I saw an issue with it. The first level of children is the scenes. How many objects does each of those 2 scenes that stayed in the stage?
All right.
Have?
So
click Start first. And
Yeah.
then the second debug.
Yep.
Yeah. So the children, it has 2 children which are each
Start
of 2 scenes.
and play.
Yeah,
That's
those
good.
are 2 scenes.
That's good. And now each one of them has. This is good actually. This is what I wanted.
Yeah. So
One of them
has
is Start, and Start has
0 children. Okay.
0 children, and Play has 2 children.
Okay.
So that's what I've done. I've removed the children from Start and started the play scene.
The only thing is we don't destroy the scene stuff.
This Start scene hasn't been destroyed. Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's still scene. That scene is still there, which it should not be.
Yeah.
So what do I do for that? That's why I wanted to check this too, right? So length 2 should not be the case. It should be length 1, right? So how do we get rid of that? So going back, again, this is just troubleshooting, but I knew this was going to happen to some degree. Well, here, right? We destroyed the current scene, and we also want to delete any current scene. So destroy does a couple things, right? It removes all children, but it doesn't destroy itself. So what I can do is I can issue a delete command, maybe, or I can set the thing to null, one of the two.
Is there not something in the stage that would do?
No, because it's I could unload the stage. I could say that stage.remove child or remove all children. I could do that, right? So say this will do it too. If I did this, then what it will do is remove all children from the stage, which is like killing them. That's what remove all children do. And then if I went back and if I try this out, I have start is the child. See, this is good. And then in the children of start, I have 3 children.
Yes, now you need to press the...
Now start. Okay, cool. In the children is play. No more and no more start. Start's gone. And inside play, now I only have 2 children. And that's, my friends, how we have to do it. Otherwise, if we forgot that little place, memory leak. Right?
Is there a way to make it so that the destroy function for each scene always ensures that it gets
Destroys, that removes itself from the stage?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I don't recommend it.
Okay.
Because this would remove itself from the stage as well. You could do it. You could say that this.parent.stage.remove all children. But it's here. And it's cleaner, right? All right, so we've done this if the current scene exists. So that would stop memory leaks, right? This kind of cleans up. So we'll do some, so clean up current scene, right? And only if scene exists that we do that kind of cleaning up stuff, okay? And now we're able to switch between scenes. Okay, cool. What about, though, if I need some lose condition or win condition for me to go to over scene, right? So right now we're good. Let me get rid of all those console logs. I put them in there just for us to test because I knew something was going to happen. I've come this way before. All right, cool. So no more console logs. Yay. What I want to do is when I click start, I want to have my plane and I want to have 2 more game objects. But before I go there, I want to go to this. These are all the things I've changed, right? I modified scenes. I'm going to say added finite state machine, right? Support for scene switching. What I've done. So pretty long update, and I do apologize. It could be probably said smaller, like added FSM support for scene switching, but I want you to know what finite state machine is. That's why I did it this way. Okay, good. Is this the only way to do it? No. There's other ways to do this, and we will explore those ways another time. All right, so cool. We're ready to go and add new stuff. I know I'm going nonstop, guys, and I do apologize, but if I don't do this, you will not have everything you need for your assignment number 1. Okay? All right, so I have my managers and my objects. Let's add a couple more objects. I want a island and a cloud now, all right, to add to my placing. This is pretty simple. I want to say that I want to make a new file. I want to call this island.ts. There it is. And my island.ts is going to be very similar. My island and my ocean island and my cloud are going to be similar. It's inside module objects. And inside module objects, I'm going to export a class called island, which is going to extend object.gameObject. Objects.gameObject. There we go. And I have already a problem, but we'll get to that. I need some private instance variables. I need some public properties, which I don't have any yet, ever, anywhere. I have some constructor functions, maybe only one. I have some private methods, and I have some public methods, which I need when I go up here. I want it to self-generate all this stuff again, right? because it's, guess what? It is of type GameObject. So I'm going to cut this out. I'm going to go down to public methods and put those in there, including start. And we're going to get rid of all this stuff. It gets implemented automatically. Okay, these are all the methods. And I'm going to call in my constructor function, I'm going to call the super constructor, which needs the name of the object, which is going to be called island. There's my island. And I'm also in my super constructor going to call the start method. Okay. That sets everything up. And in my start method, I'm going to call nothing for now. All right, I need a couple of private instance variables and in my island class, and one of them is going to be the vertical speed. Oh, that sounds very similar to my ocean. So I'm going to say vertical speed, which is going to be private, which is a number. Okay, I'm also going to need some other stuff, but for now, vertical speed is something that I'm going to start with. I'm going to say that this dot vertical speed is equal to 5. It's going to match the same speed as my ocean because islands shouldn't be faster than the ocean. They shouldn't move, right? So that's what this does. I'm also going to update my y coordinate. Let's say that this dot y is plus equal to this dot underscore vertical speed. But we learned that if I did this, I should probably have some kind of private method, very, very similar to what we did earlier, too similar, in fact. Maybe we should fix that sometime. Hint, hint. My private underscore move method should also be something that I'm updating. So instead of doing it this here, I'm going to do it here and call my move method this underscore move, which makes more semantic sense, right? Logically, it's the same. All right, so this vertical speed updates, and then what's going to happen is I need to start from somewhere. I need a reset function, and I want to start the island off screen. So what do I mean by that? I mean that if I had a, oh, it's not what I wanted. If I had this situation, and let's just put back my thing. Again, I'm just explaining so that you guys understand, not because I want to take up your time. I really don't. But some people will have an issue with all this. Let's suppose, actually, let's keep it like this, and I'll change the opacity really low. Let's suppose this area here is my viewport. That's what I can see, right? I'm also going to open up. I'm also going to open up under desktop. I'm going to go to my folder here and go to assets and images, and I'm going to go the island way. Open that up. Here's my island. And imagine if I have my island over here. Okay. There it is. And what I wanted to do is it's going to start off screen somewhere. So if I start at the same place every time here, it's just going to do this. And then it's going to leave the screen. I need to reset it somewhere like here. And in fact, I don't want to set it back here. I want to be some random location between here and here. That's what I want the X coordinate to be. Okay, so random location. And I also want it to start reset at the height of the total height of my island off screen. So that means that the reset method is going to be this dot height, right? Because I have that. And it's going to be negative, the negative value of this dot height, right? So that is going to be my new Y position. So the negative value means whatever the height is measured at, it's going to take it's going to subtract that from the 0 position, 0, 0. Okay. So that's my Y position. Negative height is going to be off screen, basically starting off. And I want to do the reset as soon as I start. So I'm going to do something like this dot reset. And vertical speed, this part here, right? It's going to be set in my reset function for now. So I'm going to take my reset function, and in my reset function, I'm going to set vertical speed. I'm going to say vertical speed is here. There's a reason for this, which you'll see in a future iteration of the code. All right, so reset sets the vertical speed and also does the height, negative height. And now I need to set the x value. This dot x is equal to, now I want some kind of random value. I can use the math function, math.random. Math.random provides a number between 0 and 1. Okay? And what I want to do is say, okay, math.random, I want to add 640 pixels, right, times 640 pixels wide. I want to subtract the whole width of my island. So I'm going to take all this, subtract the whole width of my island, right? This dot width. Okay, I want to be able to do that. I want to take that. Okay, I have my but I want to add half of the width because I don't want it to be off screen. I don't want it to go off screen this way, and I want it to ask that way. What do I do? Do you understand what I mean? So if I go back to this, that means that I want to go from here to here. But if I don't, and if I say it's from 0, that's what it'll start off, to 640, it'll be like this. I don't want 0 to 640. I want from this point, which is 0 plus half the width, to this point, which is 640 minus half the width. So if I go from 0 to 640, if I go from 0 to 640 minus the whole width, it's here. But then I still have this problem. So I need to add half the width back somehow. Right? Where do I write this in? So really, what I want to do is I want to say something like this. I want to say 640 minus, put the minus inside here, minus this, the whole width, is what I want to subtract, is what I want to multiply by. 640 minus half the width, right? Then add half width, this dot half width. And this is okay, but this would give me 0.03 pixels, or 45.38965 pixels. Do I have one small part of a pixel? No, which means I should round it down or round it up. I'm going to round it down. So that means I need some other brackets like this. And I'm going to say that, by the way, you can add less brackets if you want. Math.floor, which means it's going to round down the nearest pixel, nearest integer. It's going to give me an x value somewhere between 0 plus half the width of the island to 640 minus half the width of the island. That's what it's going to do. Okay, so that is going to be my reset function. And I'm going to call my reset on start. And then I got to check to see when I go to the bottom of my screen, which means I need to have a check bounds function. So private check bounds. And I'm going to, in my check bounds function, I'm going to do that every frame. Hi, this looks familiar. This looks familiar, and it's bad because I'm doing the same thing over and over again, right? In my check bounds function, I want to say that if my island is going below the screen, if this dot y is greater than or equal to, actually we just say greater than, this dot, so 480 plus this dot height, then this dot reset. So if it goes to the bottom of the screen, it's going to reset to the top again. That's what's going to happen. And this is going to happen every frame. I'm going to check to see. I'm going to move my island. I'm going to check to see if it goes below the screen. And then if it does, I'm going to reset it back to the beginning. I'm going to reset the speed and stuff like that too, just in case. And it's going to keep doing that over and over again. Cool. I like it. All right, let's test it out and see if it works. So we're here and start. Whoa, man. What happened?
You never call it.
I never called it. I never added it. I never did anything. I added it, but I never did anything with it. So let's go back to this. I was so excited. I didn't do anything with it. Let's go back and put it in my index.html. Where should it go? It's going to be ocean, player, scene, probably, you know, something over here. So script, source, and then I'm going to say scripts, objects, and then it's going to be island. That's where it's going to go. And in my placing, so if I'm going to go into my, play.ts, I want to add an island. So let's keep this open, private _ island, objects.island. Okay. And then what I want to do is every frame, I want to update my island. Doesn't matter where, _ island dot update. Okay. And then down here, I got to figure out now, is it go ocean player island? That means my player will go underneath the island, right? It can't be this way. It has to be here. My island has to be added here. So add island to the stage. Actually, it's not even to the stage anymore. It's to the scene, right? Guys, guaranteed you need to know this stuff for your test week 7, 100%. Right? This dot _ island is equal to new objects dot island, and this dot add child, this dot _ island. That should do everything we need. That adds the island and below the player. Okay, start. There's the island, and there's the island, and there's the island in its different places. It looks like it's a different island, but actually it's the same island that we're resetting every single frame, just like it's the same ocean. All right, we have one more thing to add. So we added this part. Let's just go here now, and we added this part in there. We're going to stage everything. We're going to say added island to the stage, or island class. How about that? Oh. And push. So that's the island class. And let's add one more, which is going to be the cloud class. Now, the cloud class is going to be very similar to the island class. In fact, so similar, you're going to get angry at me, right? Let's see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go to, remember what we were talking about, like optimization? We're not optimizing yet. So new file. I'm going to call this the cloud class, cloud.ts. I'm going to copy everything from the island class, everything but everything, right? Except for we're going to modify some stuff. So again, did I put it in the right place? I did not. I put it in the cloud scene. Ah, delete, move. I meant to put it in objects. New file, cloud.ts. There we go. All right, and then I'm going to go to the island, select everything, copy it, go back into the cloud and paste it. It's going to be very similar to the cloud. I'm just going to rename it there. It's going to be a cloud instead of an island. Okay. I'm going to do all this stuff, except the vertical speed, I want it to be random. I want my clouds to be sometimes faster, sometimes slower, you know, so that's going to change. So that's one thing that's we have to figure that out, okay? This part's still going to be the same, right? So the check bounds, no problem, no difference there. But vertical speed is going to be a random number, right? So we're going to say that math.floor Let's do this for you really quickly. And then math.random, right? It's going to multiply by, I want it to go from 5 to 10, right? So 5 and then plus 5. That should make it so that it's going to go from a speed of 5 to a speed of 10 fast, okay? So a vertical speed of 5 to 10. And I want a random horizontal speed as well. So let's make a horizontal speed. I'll just copy paste. Call it horizontal speed, which doesn't exist. Yeah, which we want to put up here. So we'll kind of make a new private instance variable called horizontal speed because you want a little bit of drift for the cloud. So the cloud is going to have some drift. Right now, horizontal speed. Why is that grayed out? Horizontal speed. Okay. Okay. So yeah, the horizontal speed is going to be some random number, but it's not going to be so fast. That's way too fast. Let's make it so that it is from -2 to 2. So how does that work out? So I'm going to subtract 2 this time. So that means that I'm going to go from 0 to 4, and then I'm going to subtract 2. So it means if it's 0, it's going to go to -2. If it's 4, it's going to be to 2. And if it's 0, if it's 2, it's going to be 0. Right? That's what this is going to do. So that's my horizontal speed. However, I never add my horizontal speed to my movement, and now I need to. So in my movement, I also got to add this dot x plus equal to this dot underscore horizontal speed. That's also going to have horizontal speed, not just vertical speed. I'm also going to get a bit of drift. The rest, though, looks like it's good, right? The rest, nothing else changes. Math floor for the width, everything else is the same. All right, let's check it out and see if it works. So again, going back to my index.html, I'm going to add the cloud to my scene, my cloud to my files here. So this will be cloud.js, needs to be added in. There's a cloud. And then in my play scene, I'm going to add that in too. I'm going to say that private cloud objects.cloud. Okay, so I put that in there. I'm going to update the cloud. Oh, I'm going to put some space here. Underscore cloud dot update. And then I'm going to, and I know we're running out of time. I apologize. I want to add the cloud to the bottom of the player. So I'm going to say something like be above the player. So it's going to be adds cloud to the scene. Only one cloud this time. So cloud is equal to a new objects.cloud. And this dot add child, this dot underscore cloud. Why is this giving me issues? Because this is outside the scene again. Should be here. Okay, so that adds one cloud to the scene. Okay, cool. Let's see if it works. So cloud gets added in, and we're going to go back to this, start play, and cloud. 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 Really fast cloud. Slow cloud. And it looks like it's a different cloud every time, right? But this cloud stuff, my friends, before we go, is really like too easy. We need 3 clouds. How the heck do we do that? We never did that before. So let's go back to the drawing board really quickly before you guys go. If I have one cloud, can I have an array of clouds? Okay. So I could do something like cloud 1, cloud 2, cloud 3. That would be very bad. Or, I'm saying, you know, I would never do it. But I could do an array of clouds. So clouds is of type objects.cloud array. That's how you kind of typecast that, right? An array of clouds. Okay, if that's true, then I have more work to do, my friends. First of all, in update, I cannot update the cloud. There's more than one. I have to run through a for loop of some kind. Let's use a for each. So for each, again, I could say that for each this dot underscore clouds, for each cloud, that's one way of doing it. I could say that I want to cloud dot update, and that would be perfectly fine. This is one type of for each loop that you could use, right? And this is kind of the old school way of doing it. Okay, that's one way. The other way to do it is I could say that I want to do a for of, which is a new kind of iterator. I could say that for cloud of this dot underscore clouds, every cloud of clouds, then cloud dot updates. Both are valid. Which one do you prefer? Right? The second one? You like this one better?
It's very C#.
Yeah. There's also one more. There's also one called for in, and it looks like this. But this is usually to count properties of an object. Okay? So I don't recommend this one. So for of is the way I would do it. I'll get rid of this. For cloud of this clouds, cloud update. So it'll update each cloud in the clouds. All right, that's one. The other thing is we're in trouble, right? Because I can't do this. I can't just add one cloud to the scene. I have to add many clouds to the scene. So I have to do another for loop. But this is where I need to have a number of clouds that I want to add. So maybe I want to have another private variable here. That's why I separated it. And I want to say a private, you know, something like num clouds, which is a number. And I want to set that number up down inside of start. My God, I'm actually using start for the first time. Where I say this dot underscore cloud num, or num clouds. I don't like num clouds. I like cloud num, is equal to 3. Let's just change it. Right click, and we can rename symbol to cloud number. Right, so cloud number is 3. That's how many it is. And then when we add them, we can say that we can do a regular for loop. I want to add that many clouds to the scene. Okay, but I'm in trouble. Because if I do this, and I say that for every for counts is less than cloud num, this dot cloud num, right, underscore clouds, I want to go through the list, which is this dot underscore clouds count, right? I want to add that to the stage, and I want to make a new cloud. Uh-oh. I want to do this for sure here, right? So this part I want in here. And I want to take this part here, and I want to jam it inside here. I'm going to say that for every cloud in the number array, the cloud array, then do that. But what about this part? I got to do that somewhere else. I got to build a cloud container because by default, my array is empty. And I haven't instantiated the array at all either, right? In C++, you don't have to do this. In C#, you have to do it. You have to say, you know, array of cloud, as an example, is equal to new array of cloud. That's what you have to say in C#. So too do we have to do this in here. So I'm going to take this. I have to build my cloud array, right? That's what I have to do. So yeah, this is my for loop for this. right up where I add all my clouds, right? I can do it here, and I got to do it here because it's got to be above my player, okay? However, in my start method, I got to do something else. I got to do a for loop again, another for loop, and for every this dot underscore cloud num, right? I want to add clouds to the array. Clouds. I want to be able to do that. Okay, so that's one thing I need to do. So I've said something like this dot underscore clouds count, is equal to a new objects dot cloud. I need to do that. I need to add new clouds to the array. But right now there is no array. There's just nothing. There's just a reference. So up here, before I do that, I got to add a new array. I got to say something like this dot underscore clouds is equal to a new, and this is one way of doing it, array of this dot underscore cloud, sorry, objects dot cloud. Oh, and that would do it. That's the line. So there's a couple of steps when you create arrays. This creates or instantiates a new array container of type cloud, objects.cloud. That's what this does. You need this step, okay? And then this fill the cloud array with clouds. You need that step too. We fill it, right, with objects, cloud objects, right? And then you have to update each cloud. Update each cloud in the cloud array, right? I need to do that. And then add each cloud in the cloud array scene. Now you can do that in many ways here. I did it with a for loop. You can also do it with a for each loop or for of loop. For of, where you want to add clouds or cloud of this underscore cloud, and you want to say this dot add child cloud, and that would be the same, maybe better. Okay, for each cloud in the cloud array, add it to the scene. Okay, so that does everything we need to add 3 clouds to the scene at the same time. How does this look? Oof. This one. Start. Yeah, it looks like this. And my friends, we are done for the day. Okay, take a look at this. So now you can see that I have 3 clouds. They're pretty distinct. It looks like they're different clouds, right? And what's happening is I can get these clouds that attack me. You can see it's quite hard to play. Okay. And I have random clouds that come in different places and that get reset at different rates. And if I'm not greedy, I should be able to pick up all my mail from my islands. And that's a topic of next week. How do I do collision detection? How do I do all that stuff? That's coming up next week. And how do I move from my play scene to my end scene? But we have the standard stuff in play. So questions so far. We covered a lot of stuff today. It was nonstop code. But we had to do it because you have an assignment that I'm going to give you. It's going to be posted just after the class. I'm going to post it. And what it's going to be is you're going to put together a little slot machine. Okay. Now, for those people who have had me from COMP397, you may already have done the slot machine. But now it's going to be fun with buttons. How do I make buttons and labels work? This is going to be your first real assignment that you hand back to me individually, where basically your slot machine that you're going to create, you can have a start scene and a play scene. And the play scene is going to be where the slot machine lives. All right. And the slot machine is going to have a background and so on. Please read the document carefully, right? It shouldn't be difficult. I think we did a slot machine in COMP305, no? Maybe not. But it's going to be giving you a couple things. It'll get you to practice create.js. You can use this template, this thing that I'm giving you right now, as a template. Just change the play scene to something else and change the start scene to include other things, okay? That's what I'm asking you to do. So this template that I'm providing you, which is lesson 4, this lesson 4 template, is the one that I want you to use, okay? So let's just stop. One more thing that I didn't change, I forgot to do, is inside of my index.html. It says lesson 1, we'll say lesson 4. And what I will do is now I've made a lot of changes, and I'm going to say that I added cloud class, right? And this would be everything you need pretty much to get going with assignment 1. So please read assignment 1. Again, how are you feeling about, if I give you this assignment, how are you in terms of load right now? Is it fine? You can do it by next week? You're also going to have to do your first playable by next week.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Fine.
Yes? How about the other people? How are you feeling? Gerardo?
I mean, do you provide a assignment completing monster or other energy drink?
There's no assignment completing months. How about we make it 2 weeks, right? That will give you 2 weeks to, you do one thing and then you supply me with the assignment by week 6, okay? That means that you'll get assignment 2 by week 6 and it'll be due week 8. Fair? Okay? So I think that's what we'll do. So look for assignment number 1. It'll be posted just after class and it'll be due in 2 weeks, week 6, right? Next week, just remember before we go, you have your first playable that's due, and I'm going to take a look at it. I want you to bring it ready for me to look at in class. You won't be presenting. I just want to see it, okay? And that's what's due next week. Guys, thank you so much for your patience, and we'll see you next week. Hopefully people will watch this video.